It's springtime. We're fishing a typical small inland lake. Now, we're not going for big fish. We're going for panfish, 7 and 8 inches that taste so good fried in butter. Now, 3 of us will be on the little paddle boat. 2 of us are going to fish. 1 of us is going to observe. Dave Johnson is a fisheries biologist. Now, he'll give us a few pointers on pan fishing. I'm going to be fishing too. And Molly is Brittany's spaniel. She's the one who's going to observe. Fishing dog.
You bet.
It's a grouse dog.
Well, she's part-time grouse. She has more time to fish than she does to hunt grouse, so the seasons are longer.
Is that right?
You bet.
She comes out with you on this little pontoon boat all the time?
She always comes out on this. She always fishes with us on the ocean. She hasn't missed a trip since I've had her, since she's a pup.
What's her fascination, just being out for the ride on a beautiful spring day like this?
Well, that's certainly part of it. I think that, she likes the water. She likes to watch fish being caught. I'm not sure what the fascination is with them. And she'll smell them and taste them. She's never tried to eat one yet, fortunately.
Well, the fish you catch are probably too big for her to...
Well, yes. Some of them are.
Yeah. Well,
she is a pretty big dog, though.
Yeah. Well, today we're out here fishing panfish, bluegill, crappie. This is a small lake, what, 25 acres?
27 acres,
27
right.
acres. How deep is it out there?
Most of this lake, believe it or not, is 70 feet or greater. I haven't sounded it real thoroughly, but I've found 78 feet in it, and I expect it's probably in the 80 somewhere. But you can cast off of my dock here into 65 feet of water.
No kidding. Drops off that fast.
Like a bomb crater hit it or something.
You've been a fish biologist all your life.
Pretty much.
So you must know everything there is to know about catching fish.
You think that's all it takes, is being a fish biologist all along?
But you do have a little edge, though.
Well, perhaps a little edge, yes.
What is it about bluegill at this time of year? They're not on their beds yet. They're not coming up in the shallows, but you say you're really knocking them.
Well, the surface water in the shallows is starting to warm now, and they're moving into that warmer water where there's some bugs hatching. And also, as you noticed this morning, there's a few of them that are starting to fan, so it won't be long before they'll be on the beds.
Fanning, starting to open up the bottom a little bit, clear it out for their nests. Before they spawn, is a good time to catch them?
It is. Once the water starts warming up, they're pretty active. The bluegills haven't been as cooperative today as they have the last several, but they are quite active just before spawning, and of course somewhat during spawning too.
When you're talking bluegill, are you talking principles that extend to all the panfish?
Pretty much so, although they occupy little different areas and they behave a little differently. Like the crappies, they're becoming quite active now, but they're a little bit deeper and they'll spawn a little deeper.
Do crappies ever hit the surface? The rubber spider is something that you use a lot at this time of year. Crappies ever hit that?
They do on occasion, but they seem to work better with, like these twister tails or spinners or small beetle spins, wet flies, white particularly. They seem to be very fond of white.
When you're casting to bluegills or panfish or pumpkin seeds in the shallows like this, any particular technique that gets the fish?
Well, when they're in shallow water, depending on, if you're using a real small gnat or something, you're not necessarily going to spook them if you drop it right on top of them, but it's better if you can either put it past them or a little bit this in front of them so that you don't spook them. Like I say, if you're using a real small gnat or something, you're not so likely to spook them, but if you're using a big rubber spider or a popper, shallow, clear water, if you drop it right on their heads, quite often you'll chase them away and they may or may not come back.
You have to move the rubber spider or the popper in order for the fish to come and get it. I mean, most often I've seen the fish come up to a stationary spider that's on the surface.
Well, I've had it happen both ways, Fred. Sometimes you just leave it lay on the surface and they'll come and hit it, but if they don't, then if you twitch it a little bit, I think that draws their attention to it. They may hit during the time you're twitching it, or they may hit between twitches. Right
now, they're hitting to feed, correct?
Right.
What about when they're on the beds?
Well, I think on the beds, in fact, I've watched bluegills on the beds. They seem, particularly if you bring something right across the bed, they'll pick it up and try to take it off the bed, and if they take the right bite and you set the hook fast enough, you hook them. Otherwise, they'll take it off the side and drop it. Watch them do that many times, and sometimes it gets pretty frustrating, especially if it's a gigantic bluegill that's smarter than you are.
During the day, fish hit at different times. I mean, you can't go out and the first time we went through, we were casting for the crappie that we saw in the water. Couldn't get much out of them at all. On the way back, we got a few, and then they got real hot there for a while.
Well, I think part of that is because the water warmed up. It was pretty cool last night. It was in the mid-30s this morning when I got up. And, of course, it was calm overnight, and that surface water's cooled down. And I think now the sun gotten up higher in the sky, and I think it's probably warmed that surface temperature a couple degrees. And they've become more active. Of course, the other thing is that we used a little different technique on them on the way out than we did on the way in. And
yeah, but fish can't feed all day.
No,
no,
that's
just every
true.
time you go back, they can't be eating every minute you throw something at them.
Right. I think the idea is to provide something similar to what they're feeding on when they are.
That's the key to fishing. Set the table with what the fish want to eat and ring the dinner bell when they're ready. Now, it's not as simple as it sounds, because fish and game, as predictable as they can be, can also be totally unpredictable when it comes to their feeding schedule. Okay. Now, Molly's a young bird dog, and Dave says she's great on grouse. When it comes to bluegills and crappies, well, she has darn good form. But whether or not a bird dog can be helpful in locating fish, that's questionable. But there's no doubt that having an interested dog at your feet while you're fishing can add to your enjoyment outdoors. Pan fishing is an activity that's relatively easy. It's easy going and relaxing, and in the spring when the fish are in the shallows for warmth, for food, and for spawning, you can easily catch a creel full on a variety of baits. And you can do well from docks or from shore. So before too many weeks slip by, grab a fly rod or grab some worms and a cane pole and take a kid fishing, or take a grandparent fishing, or take a dog fishing. That's the way to do it.